Hey, welcome to another typology interview. We have Uzair. How's it going, man?
It's going well, man. How are you? Thanks
Going
for having
good.
me.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. So we've got a similar type, I guess. We're both ISTP. You're a jumper version,
Yeah,
or so you're
TINI,
told. Yeah.
or so
Cool.
I'm told.
Right. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
parts of it make sense. Parts of it still are.
Right. And
You know.
then are you energy dominant or info dominant
So
then?
I'm energy dominant. So it's
Sleep and play
sleep
then.
consume blast. Yeah, sleep consume blast with
Oh, blast. So you're info
missing play.
dominant. So you're info dominant.
Yes. So I thought it was like your lead. So it's like the middle two.
You're
That
double activated on sleep then too.
yes.
Wow. Okay, interesting. That's pretty strong. So yeah, maybe we start where with your background in typology, then we'll jump into the functions.
Yeah. So my background typology is not like super interesting. It's just that like many people, I've done like the 16 personalities test like over many years of my life, and then it's kind of interesting. There's like some kind of truth that I feel like it reflects, but it was never like really. Um, it caught some interest, but didn't really capture my curiosity. Except the last time I took it, I think the fun part is that you have all your friends take it and you kind of compare. Like three of my friends that are like very different, like me and two others, we all came out as ENFPs, and they're like, "Oh, isn't that
Weird.
crazy? We're all the same." And I'm like, "We're not the same. Like it's like it's like it's blatantly obvious we're very different. Like the test is wrong, you know."
Right.
And so I was like, the test is wrong, but I think there's something about the theory behind it that makes sense. So I was like, and like the 16 personality test, like I think the thing that I found annoying is that it's like very obvious that what the questions uh, are entailing, like what
Yeah, what
functions
they're
they're pointing
asking.
to,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I was like, what was probably happening is that people are just like it's really more of a values test rather than a functions test, right? So I'm like,
Mm.
oh, let me just
We cut out there for a second. I'm just gonna pause it and resume it when you get back. Yeah, we're back.
So, so we all took the same test. We got the same type, and they're like, "Oh, it's crazy. We have the same type. We're all like really similar." I'm like, "We're not similar. There's something wrong with the test." And the way that I've set up is that um, with 16 personalities, it's like so obvious, like what function each question is pointing to. What it's effectively, my assessment at that time was that it's really more of like a values assessment of like what kind of like functions do you like, rather than what kind of functions do you have. And so
Oh,
I was like,
right.
why don't I just like distill down what the functions are, understand them, and then I'll just an assessment myself rather than have like some kind of like you know some
Third party
test
do it.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
right. And so I kind of went down the rabbit hole of that of like understanding the functions, and then I discovered Dave's videos and kind of like went into that. That was like late last year, and then I joined the class earlier this year, and I've been
Cool.
um,
And so do you
yeah.
you always got ENFP or you got something else before?
I got so on 16 personalities. I think like the it used to be flipped between INFP and ENFP.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, actually, mine used to flip a lot because like the way that test is designed is that I and the E can flip really easily, and then if you're
Uh-huh.
very close, like between F and T, those flip really easily too. So I
Yeah,
was kind of
yeah.
like going in between all four of
Right,
those.
yeah.
Um,
I also know there's like dummy questions there too. I actually like wrote out the questions and made my own test based on their test to figure out what was going on there. But yeah, they've got like dummy questions that just do nothing as well.
oh, really? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And they have like they've got a scale, right? Out of five, like three on two on one side, two on the other side, or like nothing in the middle. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
So so then I discovered like objective personality, and there's just a few things that I liked that really made sense. Um, Especially like the gender modalities for the functions, and also um, obviously the jumpers.
Right.
Me being a jumper kind of makes sense, like why I never really kind of related to
Right.
any
Yeah,
other
yeah.
other types.
Did you get your type? Did you pick a type before you like when you submitted your
Yeah.
video and stuff?
So I thought I was uh, uh, MF, TI, and I sleep, blast, consume.
Wow,
When
pretty much identical, almost.
yeah, except with the blast and consume flip. And David's like, yeah, I guess it could go either way, but I think you're probably a little bit more consume over blast. And the reason I also would have thought that I'm consume over blast, but I just didn't like that it was putting me all the way on the left of like the introversion um,
Right.
thing on the board. Because I don't think I'm a mope. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say people would think that I'm like introverted. I like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think this like introverted extroverted thing is a thing that I'm still kind of like settling in with
Yeah.
because yeah, like so that's kind of what threw me off. And so that's the part I still don't really believe that it's just like that it's just like introversion extroversion, right? um I think there's kind of like more going on there. I think that's
Yeah. Like,
probably going to
so
unfold.
my animals should put me more extroverted than you, and I'm not getting that at all.
Yeah, for sure. And so we had this like London meetup, and it was one of the guys was SCFE,
Uh-huh.
play blast, whatever, right? So he's like all the way on the right side. And it didn't really feel like the three of us were any different, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So, so I don't know. Like, I understand what, what play blast is. And
Yeah.
I could see that in people who have it, but that doesn't necessarily transfer into introversion, extroversion. That largely is also like, there's like, so there's like a number of issues that I have with certain aspects of OP.
Yeah.
And one of them is that I just think that like, so kind of diving into my functions a little bit. So I definitely have, the reason I knew I was like TI NI is because I do that all the time. I have like an NI understanding of like of the world, right? Um, and and then as I come across new concepts, I kind of create like a blood brain barrier of, okay, that's an interesting new concept. It's explaining some things, and let's just like keep it at the gate. And as things make sense for sure, we'll bring it in piece by piece. Okay,
Yeah.
so um, so that's kind of what I'm doing with OP. And I think the part that I don't like is that I think it overextends what it is. Any kind of paradigm will kind of try to over explain too broad of a thing, right? OP is not
Hmm.
going to be able to explain literally everything, like literally extroversion, introversion. A lot goes into that. You know what I mean? I think it's like
Okay.
too much to ask of one system to
Right.
explain all of like, I know why, I feel like I have a good sense knowing
Also,
my
even
whole back.
sorry, also even just to just define
Yeah,
the terms, like introversion and extroversion based on Jung has nothing to do with energy levels. And
right.
but we're talking right now like more energy level introversion, extroversion.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
And like I
So
just interviewed an INFJ yesterday who was,
I watched
yeah.
that
So he
interview.
was
Yeah,
the last play and he was so much more introverted than you. Like in the energy
yeah,
level. Yeah.
yeah. So what's going on with that, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's probably still like needs to be explored.
Right.
Um, so so yeah, and I think another thing that's probably gonna like come out on the OP side is that how far apart are people's like functions, right? So like, so I have TI on one side at the top and then FE at the bottom, right? And
Right.
like some of the interaction with those two will be explained by the animals, right? But if you ask me, like I actually have a deep respect for FE in a non kind of peacocking way. I'm not saying that I don't have FE issues. I I it's not like, so I think one thing that I don't relate to is people having such like a thing like with their demons that like, oh, of course I have issues in that regard, right? I think that I have more issues with the reason my stack makes sense to me is because I know I have issues with my shadow functions, right?
Mm.
Like I have big issues with TE, like somewhat some issues with SI, any a little bit, and then FI for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and then I have some FE issues, and then I certainly have some SE issues, right? Those are like my two demons, but they're not like, I wouldn't even classify them as demons. They're just like areas of some concern. It's not like um, I don't think that in your demons they're holistically a problem. I think there's probably areas that are like where they kind of butt heads with your saviors. That those are kind of like under.
Well, yeah, let's talk
moving
about,
forward,
yeah, like we're talking generally about everyone. Let's maybe talk more about you so that we
for
can
sure.
sort of, yeah, because like
Yeah,
what I'm getting is you're talking about yourself and like generalizing over everybody what's going on with you.
yeah. So let me tell you why I
Yeah,
do that. So to me, okay. So 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 I've actually I've like consumed like a lot of the videos just to kind of like
right.
prep for like what the interviews can be like, right? And I was like, and I was thinking, I wouldn't feel comfortable answering like, oh, hey, this is what's going in my head. Like, I tend to do this, I tend to do that, because in even though I have respect for that myself, I would never communicate that to another person or the tribe in that way, because
Hmm.
to me, like the two forms of currency are like either you either you prove that you do that right by doing it, or you refer to like other people's assessment of you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
So you're like
so
you're like going on to the SE. You're saying you have to prove it in the SE. You got to get like, or maybe even FESE. It's like you got to get
yes,
other people to identify you or show it in reality. Otherwise, just talking about it is useless.
for sure. Because I think there's been times like when I've been watching the interview and like you ask someone a question like, oh, how do you like what's your relationship with SE or
Right.
SI or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever,
I'm
and
just
I'm kind of like
trusting
this is
them,
like
basically. Yeah.
you're trusting them, right? And to me when I hear them like, okay, that's like a very narrow data point, but for the most part, I don't really believe that they do that. Like I
Right.
like why should I like how much insight do you really have to yourself, right?
Right.
I like maybe, but probably not.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, so that's just like my one note that I came across when I was watching the videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's another thing that kind of like I feel like ties to my. I definitely have like TI values. I know I
TI
value my own
values.
TI,
Interesting. Okay. What's a
as
TI
in the
value?
sense of a TI value is that like there's gonna be things that I believe are true, but because a lot of the underpinnings are like my personal experience that I can't prove to you, I'm not gonna try to convince you, you know.
Uh huh.
And so because they're like for me, um, whereas does that make sense? Like as opposed to to TE, right? It's like um, well, what are you gonna react to it? What are you gonna say?
It's just that for me, TI values are like, just to use your term, it's okay, I've got them. I have no problem sharing them if someone wants to listen, but I'm never gonna go shove it down people's throats. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. So if I'm in a place where I feel like I have to defend them, I'm just not going to bring them up unless I know I can defend them, or it's an environment where it's just like, oh hey, this is some things that I think are
But
true that have worked for me,
there's
and
like,
you can
that's
take them or you can
weird.
lose them.
There's no reason you have to defend them because in the end, you're the one who decides what they are. Like, so why would I defend them? Like that's really the bottom line. Like it's your TI. You only defend them against yourself. You challenge yourself on the TI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but once you kind of bring it up and you're talking to like another person about it,
Right.
it's like, okay, I need to back up everything that I'm saying, you know. And
If you want them to accept it for them, but like you've
if I want
already,
them,
yeah,
yes. So if I feel like they're skeptical, or if I feel like I won't be able to get to them, or if I won't be able to relate to them, I'm not going to
right.
share it with them. You
I
know what I
see.
mean? I don't know if
Yeah.
you have that.
I have the same thing. The idea is I need to use that FE to get them on board. Like, because
Yes,
TI can't do that. TI can't be like, here's the logic. Now believe me. They're like, what the heck? You gotta like, I found that like that it just doesn't work. You need to get them on board, like stir their emotions a bit to get them on board, and just ignore the logic. Like, come
absolutely.
up with the logic first and then get them on board with emotions and ignore the logic when you're talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been my experience too. And so,
Yeah.
um,
But it's hard. It's like impossible to do.
well, I think well, I think with my friends and like my like family or my social situation, that is like predominantly how I communicate. So like for example, like if I'm going to convince one of my friends about something, I'm I maybe will be like just be upfront and be like, oh, I think this because of X, Y, and Z, right?
Right.
But if that X, Y, and Z is like too subtle, or if they have an agenda or a reason not to believe it, which is often the case, like
Right.
let's say if I'm another one of my friends that they have an okay relationship with, they haven't they they don't want to believe the thing that I'm saying, right? And
Okay.
so and so if I just come out and say it, it's just gonna get shot down, right? So like I just as I'm saying this, I don't know what part of my functions are like coming through. But so my thing is, if I'm gonna communicate that to them and I want them to believe that, I'm gonna say it in a way that I know resonates with them based on my history of what I've
Right.
seen them respond to
Yeah. Yeah.
emotionally,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
You
know?
talk in a
And
language they can
so
understand, basically,
absolutely, yeah.
in a language that
And
speaks to them. Yeah.
yeah. So I was thinking about like my relationship with I butt heads with kind of like what I perceive to be TE. Who knows if these people are actually TE, but like what my perception of TE is. Um, and which to me kind of comes off like can come off like coercive, I guess. And I think
Yeah.
what they would consider me to be is manipulative, whereas I would consider
Right.
that to be persuasive, right?
So what I found with TEs is you can't TI a TE because they'll just think you're lying or they'll think you're full of BS. Like, because like your
Yeah,
logic
yeah,
is too convoluted, it's too complicated for them. Like it's not straightforward. And then if something's
yeah,
not straightforward for a TE, they're just like, you're making this up, or like it's
yeah.
not real.
And to me, the beauty in the world is like the subtlety that sometimes you don't have the sensory yet to explain it. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
it's just like kind of go with me and just kind of entertain it and think about like what this world would look like if this would maybe be true.
Okay,
And then it doesn't.
you've got a specific argument in mind here, I see, when you're
Um,
talking.
no, I'm just thinking of a specific
In
example
general?
like
Okay.
that happened. Yes, that happened. I'm in this situation all the time
Right,
where
yeah.
with certain people, I find maybe people of my quadra, where I feel like we can have like a much more like I don't want to like shit on other people, but like
No, no, no. It makes
I feel
sense.
like
Everybody of the same quadra has the same language. You're right. It makes sense.
yeah, you have the same language, and when you have the same language, you're able to communicate with more nuance
Right.
because you're not kind of like no wait, hold on, what do you mean by that? What it's just kind of like come along with me, and then if it makes sense, it makes sense, and if you agree, you agree. If you don't agree, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so crap, I lost my train of thought. But like, well, but with my TE friends, we kind of like butt heads in many different ways. One is just like our belief of like how things should play out, right? My belief is that things like let's say just in terms of trip planning, this is like hilarious in my friend group, like how stuff plays out. Like, so one of my more TE friends are like, oh, we need to plan this thing. We need to make sure everyone's on board. We need to like oh, that guy didn't respond, like ask him again, right? Whereas I'm kind of like, look, if he wants to come, he'll come. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
The fact that he's not responding is information in itself. And if you like really kind of push people, and you're gonna end up coercing them into situations that they'll resent you for,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what they
Because
don't
that happens
understand.
to me
Then
as
they're
well. That happens to you probably too then. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I want to talk about, like what a feminine FE demon looks like. Because I think the way that it's been talked about before, it's kind of like, oh, ISTP or like masculine TI. The way that'll come across is just like the assholeness of it, right? I do believe that
Yeah.
there's an asshole in me, but people don't see that by default. I think my actual problem in life is that I'm too nice, you know?
Yeah.
Like and again, the way that I'm gonna
Well,
justify that is that many people have told me that oh, you gotta like if you don't like something, you gotta tell us, right?
yeah, people tell me
Um,
the same thing. And like the thing is you're nice because of that masculine TI, right? Because like they're not going against your identity or going against your logic. They're like, I don't care where we eat. Like it doesn't matter to me. I don't care where we go
for
for
sure.
food. Like it's not something that's important. And whereas like if they push too much, then they start encroaching on your importance, and that's when the asshole comes out.
Yeah,
That's when it matters. You're only an asshole when it matters.
right. And also, I think I actually really value like FEing, right? And what that means to me is that just observe what people are feeling. Like it's not that hard. You can kind of get the sense of where people's heads are at, you know? And just
Huh.
like not everything needs to be out in the open. Not everything needs to be talked about. Like you can kind of like get the gist of like what people want to do, like what they feel about this thing, you know? And just like I just find it like very kind of crass and like ham-fisted communication
Huh.
to have to talk about everything. You know
It
what I mean?
sounds like
And
you're a little more in touch with your FE than I am, because for me that's a struggle what you're doing. Like for me that's like a goal what you're saying. Like figure out what
really,
everyone's feeling at all times and stuff. Yeah. Like you have to actually actively be paying attention to it and focus on it.
I think that's probably like the part of my type that I don't relate to the most is because like I'm saying, I definitely relate to like Xavier TI, right? All day when if I'm just walking around, I'm like TI and I sleep just thinking about like patterns, right? Thinking about
Right.
like you know like putting down layers of bricks, right?
Yeah.
Of a framework. But then when I'm around people, I'm like hyper focused on the person and like what they're
That's
feeling
interesting.
and and like and also just like and you know maybe what it is that I just very early on developed like a TI fascination with people and wanting to understand them and like what motivates them and 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 so maybe that's why I do it in that specific case.
Hmm.
Um, but to me, like when I'm around people, that's all I'm doing, you know, like, and I have like some kind of mental model of like all the people I know and how
What
they
about like
react.
validation? Do you seek out validation at all from people?
Yeah. So I think, look, I think everyone seeks validation.
Yeah.
I think the difference is so I 100% seek validation in the sense of like approval. I don't think I think if I don't get validation, it doesn't hit me as deeply as maybe like a lead OE person. So
Or like DE, you mean?
or sorry, D, sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
a lead D person. Um, because I think deep down, I am on my team. You know, I do feel that. Like I don't feel
Right.
like so. Me and my friends are talking. I think these are like more like D lead people, and they were talking about like when they have negative self talk or when they have negative thoughts, like what does it look like, right? And they were talking about like self loathing. They're like they
Uh-huh.
kind of have thoughts like, oh, I suck, oh, I can't do anything right, you know. And initially when
That
they
doesn't
first
happen to
used it,
us.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
At first I thought like, oh, they're just talking about depression, and then as I heard it more, I'm like, what the hell is self loathing, you know?
Yeah. No, because we
Because
can get
like
depressed. It's just the thoughts aren't there. Like that's not. Yeah.
yeah. Like those thoughts that they're describing, those are my anxiety and anger thoughts. Like,
Right.
fuck, damn it, I screwed this up again. Like, and actually in my own head, I talk. This is weird. I refer to myself as we. I don't know if you do this. Like, and I'll say you.
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes maybe.
I'll say you to me like oh man you idiot. And when I say you idiot, I'm talking about like a very specific part of me that
Yeah.
screwed up. I will never holistically think I'm dumb. You know.
I get that
Um,
too. Like, what are we doing right now? Like, not what am I doing? Like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah. What are
Yeah.
we doing right now? Like, or if I'm in a situation, oh, damn you idiot. All right, how do we get out of this?
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it'll always be, yeah,
Because you're talking to yourself. It's like
yeah,
you have to have someone else there to talk to. So it's like, who am I talking
right,
to? It's not what am I? What are
yeah,
we?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I do think that kind of translates to like, if this is the we, then outside is the other, which is the tribe, right? And I
Right.
do I do feel the tribe over self, you know,
The
like
self over
I do,
tribe. You mean?
sorry, the self over tribe,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but at the same time, I value FE as a way as the currency of the tribe, and realizing that like that they kind of hold what I kind of want in life, right? Like anything that I want to accomplish, it will be because other people will like it. I don't think I don't
Right.
think that just because people like it that gives inherent value, but that is just the currency of the world, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so for example, like if I was like a MMA fighter and and I like have to like you know train and fight and when I finally win, I think my feeling would be like I can't believe I have to do all this just to prove you guys what I already knew, you know? Like
Hmm.
but I do feel like your question was
That's the
do I chase
approval. Yeah.
validation?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
see that.
That
That's
is
the approval. It's
it's in
like,
that sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like presenting. It's finally being able to present who you are, so that they can finally accept it. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
change who I am,
It doesn't
right?
change, but
It's not validation in
it
that
proves who
sense.
you are.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I got that. Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Um, so do you know what TI is? Like, are you aware of what TI is in your? daily life?
Um, I think, I mean, I see it in like the sleep function of like TI and I, which is most of the day, like what I'm doing is that, okay, what's going to happen next and how is it going to play out? Right.
Uh-huh.
Um, and like that is like constantly on my mind. Like even right now, okay, what's like the next question? Okay, what direction is the conversation going? Where do I
Right.
want it to go? You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
what do I want if, like this
What do you want to
conversation
blast, I
to turn out
guess?
to be like?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in that sense, it is like, okay, NI, which is like what's gonna happen in the future, and then TI is like what do I want to happen in the future, and then kind of like figuring like logic figuring out how to get there. That's my
So
understanding of
you
it.
associated TI with what you want, like with a want.
I associate TI with the logical banging of so if I look at what I think my NI is just by itself, it's a it's a non-verbal thing, right? So like the kind of analogy I give for NI that and a kind of NI that probably anybody has is that if they see a glass that's on the edge of a table, I see a broken glass, right? That image automatically conjures up because it's just extrapolating the tangent of this situation,
Okay.
right? So if you take that extrapolation and then you add like the TI logic to it, it's like, okay, that's one layer. Okay, then solidify that. Let's add the next layer to that. Okay, if this, then that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
Yeah. If this, then that. So like you're fracturing out your NI a little bit into mini NEs as well. Like it's several NIs sort of thing. So
right,
it's kind
right.
of simulating an NE sort of thing.
It's almost like one is the brick and the other is the mortar, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's you kind of need both to really build a larger framework.
Yeah. I get that too. Like I am able to brainstorm like possibilities as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
in that way. Possible
for sure.
outcomes and stuff. What about like truth? What do you see truth as?
Um, I do filter through things that in my head, like whatever kind of sensory or like things that people say, I do kind of like weigh whether is this true or not. I wonder if anybody does everybody do that. That truth is important to me. So okay, so this is one way it plays out. Let's say if someone has experienced a situation that where I wish I was there to see what happened, right? When I ask them about it, I will still kind of like be like, oh, okay, oh, damn, what happened? And then, oh, and then, you know, but what I'm actually trying to get out is I don't care what your interpretation of it is. I'm going to try to get all of the raw data I can possibly assemble, right?
Right. Like
That's
yeah. So the idea is they have this interpretation, and then there's all of these. There's something that caused that interpretation. So you're trying to re-extrapolate what that cause was, so that you can
yeah,
reinterpret it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and in doing that, I have to like as nicely as possible without them kind of getting offended that I'm questioning their perspective,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
you also
Yeah.
have to do that.
Yeah. I'm bad at that. That's right. Yeah. You got to do that. Otherwise, they get offended.
Otherwise, yeah, because you're basically like, oh, did that really happen? And so I
Yeah.
will oftentimes walk away from a situation, and the person will probably think that we agree because I'm like, oh, damn, I can't believe that happened. And me walking away thinking, all right, that didn't happen. Like now I know that didn't happen. You
Right.
know?
And then, but then sometimes it actually did happen. Like you get proved wrong. You're like, I should have trusted that guy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you have to go by whatever.
Right.
You can never like. I think the good thing about having feminine and I is that I I don't know how exactly that plays out versus like having masculine versus feminine, but I do think that at any given time it can change. I do have a deep respect for the facts. You know, I think that at any given time I do have a theory of what's going to go on, but I can't predict the future. No one can. You know,
Right.
and I do think you
Yeah.
need to have that um, to have these things be usable in real life and not have them veer you off
Right. Well,
and
you can
just use them
predict
to inform.
possible futures, and if you're wrong, well, it's just another possible future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously to me, I'm not going to say this usually out loud, but I very heavily trust in my intuition of what's going on. I
Right.
think I have a good balance on. So I think it took me like kind of a long time to kind of like be comfortable with the fact of like, oh, kind of seems really arrogant that I'm thinking I usually know what's right. I can predict what's going on. I have a sense of what's going on in people's heads. Do you know what I mean?
Uh
Like
huh.
it seems
Yeah.
like very arrogant to say that.
It's
You know?
arrogant and like omnipotent sort of thing. It's like I know I'm a know-all and I know everything and
Yeah,
everything's yeah. I'm
right.
the ultimate authority. Yeah.
And I'm running through the filter like, okay, if someone else was telling me that, I wouldn't believe them,
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't think that they are anything special, right? Um, but I think that I think that I am pretty good at it, and for my purposes, I don't need to convince anyone else
You
that I'm good
don't,
at it. But
because
for
you're the
my
master of
purposes,
your own world. So I
yeah,
mean,
and so
that's all you're doing.
for my like predictions, I'm gonna trust my predictions. They've served me, and
For
I think they do
yourself.
serve me
Yeah.
for myself. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's other people who now trust my opinion on these things. And if and the reason I'm doing this assessment is that do I have problems in these areas? And if I honestly look at it and I've thought about it a lot, I'm like, actually, you know what? I think I'm okay in these areas. Like, despite these like large claims of like, oh yeah, I do this stuff well. I think that they're like fine. The things that I do really poorly is I think the reason I do well in these things is because I literally think about them all day. And then
Yeah.
if you think about them all day, you're leaving a whole bunch of stuff undone. And that's the stuff that I suck at.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I do see like the I don't have SC as a demon in the sense that I get overwhelmed like with like I like the SC of gathering it, like information to feed my NI, right?
Right.
But I do think that like the demon FE and demon SC comes in the specific things that I really really want to do, right? Which is like what things will I never do? I'll never pick up the phone and call someone. Like if I needed um to let's say like get a job recommendation from a person I didn't know and just have to hit them up on LinkedIn and kind of like, ask him for things. I wouldn't be able to do that if my life depended on it.
Right.
And I think
That's the play. That's the play last.
that's a play last. And I think that it's also like, I actually feel like I feel very extreme, like feminine FE to the point where I feel like my whole life is, that is just like, is like, what is it called? Like a,
A
what
theme.
is that ball? No, that big ball that demolishes buildings.
The wrecking
Um,
ball. Yeah.
Wrecking ball. So that's like the wrecking ball, like that I'm always kind of like going around. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm very hyper aware of. That's why I think I'm good at getting the vibe. But the flip side of that is that not only do I get the vibe, but I will just conform 100% around it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And
Do you get tidal waves from the tribe?
I think my tidal waves are this, is that I am just like, um, I'm not able to kind of like assert uh, like my will into the world. You know,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
I'm very
You're
I'm
like
very
you're like a leaf in the river sort of thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes. So if there's any kind of like, if I have to kind of like push up like against my boss to kind of like to say like, no, I think this is unreasonable, or like I don't think we should do it this way, I'll tend not to do that. And
Right.
then if it's something like very kind of like mucky complicated thing, like let's say like moving houses, I don't want to do that because then it pulls me out of my sleep energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like I like have like I very much could easily be um in like my kind of ivory tower of just like figuring things out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then if you do that, yeah, that's great. You can figure things out, but then you'll never get to like use them in the
Put them
real
in
world,
practice. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Which is like
Yeah.
which is like the whole point of everything. You
And
know?
I found it's also just a perception that you can't push on people. Like you actually can push. It just feels like you can't, so you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's like one of those things, like lessons that I learned sometimes, and then it completely falls right back. You know?
Right. Yeah. Because of the feminine in
Um,
I guess. Yeah.
yeah, I think I don't think it's not that I don't remember the lessons. I remember the lessons. It's that the the power of the feminine FE will like topple me over like all the time.
Hmm.
Like if I don't,
Okay, so
make it happen.
tell me you're putting together some sort of idea or some sort of concept. Okay, you're working on it in your ivory tower, as you put
Yeah.
it, and you found that you're missing something, some information. Is that when you would go and consume? And would you go like would you find that when you do that consume, you might ignore part of the information because you're not really your eyes aren't open to it? Does that happen to you sometimes?
No, because I am like consumer over blast, right? And
Are you
I never
really?
just as I said, am I really right? Am I really? I'm very
Uh-huh.
blasty, aren't I?
Yes.
So I that's why I put myself blast over consume.
Right.
But I also consume a lot. I think that not that I'm like, oh, I consume a lot, but just for example, like how many people who do this interview with you would watch like 10 hours of your interviews, right? like
Yeah.
that's also kind of like what's going on there, right? So
It's
um,
a planning. It's a planning thing too, I guess.
that's a planning thing, right? And it's just like, and it's like, how am I gonna plan? Is that I want to like, and like how am I watching it? I'm also kind of like I'm like consuming for a specific thing in mind, right?
Yeah,
I want
exactly.
to because I want this conversation to take place in a way that we've talked before, right? I don't want us
Right.
to have like a low level conversation. I want us to have like a next level conversation.
Right.
And to me, the only way that I'll be able to do that is if I kind of understand the kind of questions you ask, and then and then and then kind of like, you know,
And the kind of
because
person I
then I'll
am
like
and
kind of
stuff
like
like that.
know what kind
Yeah.
of person you are, like you know what I mean. So
But so
for
it
me, that
seems like
consume is
your
important
consume is in service not only to your sleep but also to your blast. Like,
for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Like the reason I put my blast higher is because that's the thing that I actually really value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The consume is just like you. I mean, obviously you have to consume, right? You don't want to be like
Right.
you have to do that part. It's the part that I actually really dislike about myself, like this like drive to have to like understand the drive to take in all the information that's available. You know,
Hmm.
honestly, like if this interview was like in 3 days, like 3 days from now, I was like very tempted to push it. But I was like, if I push it, I will literally be watching this guy's videos for the next 3 days, and I need to
I
just
want
like
more
fix something else in
views.
my
I should have pushed it.
life.
uh,
Yeah. So I actually don't think I have any problem with like SE in terms of consuming SE. You know, I think I got enough SE. You know, like I think
right.
I'm okay on that. Um,
But like,
I have
yes,
problems with
that
like
assumption that you have enough SE, does that ever get you in trouble?
no, because I think that I do have enough SE. Like just for example, like to the degree that it's like how annoying it is in my life is that anytime I go into like a restaurant or a supermarket, I have to like go through and look at every single item. You
I do the
know?
same thing.
Yeah, it's just like, and to the
It's a
to the point where
compulsion.
like it's a compulsion. It's
Yeah.
it's so stupid. It's just like I'm not. Sometimes I'll just walk into a grocery store thinking like, oh, I wonder if there's like a new, I don't know, whatever, and I'll just like go through the entire grocery store and just like look at all the
Right.
items. It's just like,
Well, the other thing is I could make a list first, but then like maybe I forgot something on the list. If I go through everything in the grocery store, then I know I didn't forget anything on the list.
yeah. Also, like, what if there's like a sale, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
I'll miss that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I'm
And
less
so
focused on the sale. I don't care about that, but I will take something that's on sale over something that's not.
the sale really drives me. Like,
Really?
if I don't
Okay.
if I don't keep that in check, I think it's like the like conserving energy. Like I'm like very upset if I don't keep my money saving in check, I will literally not spend any money.
Huh.
Um, but but anyway, so I think my relationship with SE is like fine in the consumer regard, but I think I have issues with it in the sense where like so my biggest nightmare is, so this actually happened the other day, is that I was moving house and I'm moving into a house that my sister also lives in, and I put in a lot of like the crap that I had to sort out in the garage, okay? Because that's again, it's like outside of like the blood brain barrier, right? My room, everything that's in there now, I know what's in there and it's clean, but the garage can be chaotic.
Right.
And what my sister was doing is that she was like picking stuff up from the garage. She's like, hey, isn't this your stuff? Do you want it? And so I was caught in between like, oh, I got to keep out this unsorted SE
Unsorted
out
SI,
of
like
out of
SI. Yeah.
S, yeah, or
Organized
it's
sensory. It's unorganized sensory.
it's unorganized sensory. So I
Yeah.
need to keep it out. At the same time, I don't want to burden my sister. So it's my sister's house, right? And so I'm kind of like, oh, I don't want. She clearly wants the garage clean, and so
Right.
I'm kind of like caught between like, oh shit, I have to deal with this now. And like in that sense, I get overwhelmed with the SE, especially when it's getting pushed in along with the feminine FE, right? Because I'm not going to push up against the
Hmm.
feminine FE.
I find also that FE, the fact that it's a demon, and the fact that it's feminine makes it like people don't actually care sometimes. Like they don't actually mean something when they say it to you, but like you'll just be super sensitive, be like, oh, did they mean that? Did they mean that? I got to do everything so they're happy, like
So I
so
think this
that
is the
they're
other thing
not
that I realized
mad.
about
Yeah.
it. I actually think that I trust my interpretation of the FE. I think the thing that I don't give enough credit is that people's emotions are very ephemeral. And just because they might not like you initially, so another friend of mine, he's like very oblivious, okay? And he has tidal waves in regards to that. But what I'll see, like when he kind of like walks up to strangers and talks to them, they're initially kind of like, God, who is this guy? right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as he's talking, they're like, oh, actually, he's kind of cool.
Right.
But if I had walked up and I had gotten the initial reaction of kind of like, oh, who is this guy? I would have
Right.
left. But
Yeah.
he's able to push through it
Because he's
because
unaware.
he's unaware, right?
Yeah.
And so if I can just like internalize that people's emotions are ephemeral and that I can move them,
You can move them.
that's like a very important realization
Mm-hmm.
for me to like internalize,
Right.
I think.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. And I think like that's part of all like upkeep as well on people's emotions about you. Like you have to put in that time, otherwise like otherwise their emotions will just stay static. They won't change. And like they'll think about that of you all the time unless you put in the time to get them to like you.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't really feel like I have any issues with that.
Right.
I feel like in terms of that, I feel like fine with all my relationships, you know.
Okay.
Um, I actually think that to the point
All
of
three of
like,
them. Just kidding.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so like my FE demon is not that I feel like that I don't cater to people enough or that I don't have enough people in my life. I feel like I got tons of friends. I'm like very grateful for that. Um,
Right.
my it's very clear what my FE issues are. It's like it's with
Uh-huh.
people, and also with my friends. I'm much more comfortable with pushing them. Because I kind of like I just like know them. My issue is
Right.
kind of like more with like the general like um, the general tribe, like people I don't know.
Okay, so tell me about your consume. It's supposed to be Savior second. Like, are you able to read books from front to back? If you start a book, do you compulsively finish it? Um, did you
I
do
do.
book reports as a child?
I didn't do book reports as a child. I didn't. I don't really remember being high consume as a kid. But
Yeah,
then at some point, I wasn't
same here.
like so I wasn't sure if I listened to a lot of audiobooks. But to me, it's like it's very anybody can listen to an audiobook, right? It's not a
Right.
very difficult thing to do. I do that a lot. I wouldn't I wouldn't say that I'm like. I mean, I guess I have to say that I'm high consume because if I compare myself to other people that I know, I am spending the majority of the day just like taking stuff in, like content in.
Right.
Um,
So, what kind of content is it in service of something, or it's just general broad content, or it's like
it's
some
it's it's
channel that you're
usually
following?
it's usually in service of something. It's usually in service of something. Very occasionally, because I don't enjoy the active consume, I'm just not
Right.
gonna just like generally like if I just like generally peruse the internet and go down a bunch of other Wikipedia pages, which you know I'm want to do, and I'm sure many people are as well. I find that very draining. I don't find that relaxing.
Yeah.
You know.
So
Um,
I'm supposed to be lead consume anyways, and I get the same thing. Like consume is tedious, and it's very rare that you find something that you're consuming that you like really enjoy.
Right. By its very nature, right? Because like most of the stuff you take in is gonna be crap, and it's
Right.
just like it's a lot of it. It's just kind of like taking stuff in, and some of it's gonna be good. And so consumer is just maybe not that fun of a thing.
Right. Uh-huh. Um, Tell me about some of the NI ideas that you might be reluctant to share with people that you've accepted on yourself.
Gosh,
Just give me one or two examples.
I'm trying to think like what would I be reluctant to share about with people.
Not reluctant to share, like something that you wouldn't mind sharing, but like you said you just wouldn't share it because they wouldn't accept it.
Okay, so let me think. What would be an example of that?
Things you've accepted on yourself.
So even just like I haven't talked to any of my friends about like OP,
Okay.
just because I feel like um, I'll talk about it in ways that they understand, in the sense of like, um, like I'll talk about like sleep versus play in the sense of like, okay, it's understandable that people have different natural tendencies,
Right.
and whatever your tendency is, the opposite of that thing is going to be something that you're going to be underdoing, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I'll talk about it in that sense, but otherwise, so I wouldn't even share like OP and I realizations with people. Let me think if I have something specific.
So like I would if I could put them in layman's terms, like if I could put them in a way they can understand. But I mean,
Right, exactly. And so
yeah.
that I'll also do it in that way. I will talk about it a lot, but I'll talk about it in just like what they need to take away from it
Right.
without any of like the baggage of
The
the
baggage of
terminology
the
and stuff.
logic and the history of it. Yeah, yeah. Right.
Right, right.
The
Yeah,
takeaway. Yeah. I find the same
yeah,
thing. Like a lot of the under the hood, it's like an engine. A lot of the under the hood work is that TI and I working away, and then at the end there's like this big takeaway, and that's really what you want to present to people. And if
yeah,
they're interested in how you got there and stuff, you could maybe like re-simulate it, recreate it, but you don't always even remember how you got there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
You get the same thing? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, gosh, I wish I had and I think I'm just like on the spot, so I don't really
Yeah.
remember
Yeah. Well, we can come back to if
an
you
I
think of something
concept
on the
for sure.
way, we'll get back to
Yeah.
it. Um, do you feel like there is a universal truth to behind everything?
No.
No.
I
What do you
mean,
feel?
so I think the ultimate reality is just the SE. I do think
Mm,
that there's probably like behind that like an NI that unifies it all, right? Like
yeah.
God or whatever you believe.
Right.
Um, and then there's just like the raw SE. That's why actually I do believe that there are second order NI patterns out there, but
Uh-huh.
I think that
Well, you can
they're
never
just
get to the
there
first
for.
order. The first order is impossible to achieve, right?
I think you can get. I think it's probably there, but I think that the way that I deal with it, I don't need to concern myself with that. Is kind of how I feel, and I feel
Mm,
like the ultimate truth is always that there is no like. I made a comment about this in the Facebook group about that. The actual true reality is that there's no types, right? I do believe that, and
okay.
then the so like a very common NI concept that I believe in is that dichotomies. There's kind of like a Russian doll effect of dichotomies, right? So there'll be like one truth, and then within that is a complete opposite truth, and within that is a complete opposite truth, right? So for example, like the ultimate truth that there's no types, right, and that everything is different, and then the complete opposite truth within that is that there are some patterns. Um, Once you accept that there's no patterns, you know what I mean? And then
Okay.
within that, it's kind of like
Yeah,
it's
I know what you mean. I don't think I would accept it just yet, but I know what
yeah
you mean. Yeah, I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, if you found something to be true, like, would you move yourself to that? Like, if you found, like, for example, you decided, okay, it's true that we shouldn't be eating meat or something like that. Would
Yeah.
you then feel the obligation to meet that truth, to put that truth on yourself?
Um, Let me think. I think actually, I'm fairly convinced that one shouldn't eat meat, but I still eat meat.
You
You know?
still eat meat, right?
Yeah.
So how do
So
you resolve that that contradiction within yourself?
um, I'm not sure. I don't really find it. It's not a. I don't really feel that bad about it. Um,
Okay.
I think that because I just think that it's like something that is good and is probably true, but maybe it's just one of those
Right.
things I don't feel that strongly
Okay,
about yet.
I see that. I see that. So you're talking about feelings, you're talking about values. So it is a true value, it's just not a truth.
Um, yeah. What you're talking about like just truths in the world like
Yeah, yeah,
that
I'm trying to
that are
get to
across
your
like
TI. Yeah.
all um I think that I don't know if I hold there's definitely like principles. Have you read Ray Dalio's book Principles?
No.
Oh, excellent book. And it's like a very like TI-NI or NITI thing. Basically this guy has like gone through his life and he's distilled certain principles in his life that he believes are true. Okay.
Right.
So I do believe truths in that sense that just for example, like people will um, that if you're trying to get to the truth of a matter, which is important to me again, is you need to present both sides as equally desirable or equally undesirable, right? So like that's just like a little nugget that I hold to be true, right? Because what people will do when they're trying to in the pursuit of truth, they will present someone who has access to the knowledge that they want and kind of like skew um, the answer in one direction, you know?
Okay, so that's what I found with TINI as well. Is that you can't really get to a foundational perspective without divided perspectives first. Like a foundational perspective is the resolution between two less foundational, like you put second order as your term. So like two second order perspectives, you can resolve them into a first order perspective, but you still need those second order perspectives to get someone else to that same resolution. You can't just present them with the first order one.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And that I think is a huge part of our sleep, the TI and I sleep, is doing that resolution. But then if you want to present it to someone afterwards, you need to preserve that dichotomous second order in order to get them to also to the first order.
Yes, I think I follow that.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, or?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Uh-huh.
But yeah, so truths, I don't know. There's things that I believe are truth. There's like things that I think that there's tactics. I think that things, what I see truths or one layer of truths to be is that things tend to go one direction or the other. Like the wind seems to blow in one way in the world that we live in. You know what I mean? And
it doesn't mean it's true though. Like the truth could be going against that wind, right?
It's yeah. I guess I don't really. What is the truth? I guess the truth then to me is that you're trying to like distill is that just what's going on, right?
So you're linking it back to SE, like reality is the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
My question usually is like what's going on, and then once you know what's going on, you can kind of figure out what's gonna happen.
Why?
You know,
yeah, why?
Like
okay.
why, and so that's my main concern. I think.
So I think I'm coming at it from the opposite side. So you're coming at like the theory first, and then figuring out what the actual truth is from that theory. And I'm coming at the other side. Is like if you get enough of actual facts from the world, you can find the underlying truth behind it.
Yes. But I would say it kind of goes both ways. I wonder if there's a difference.
Well, there is a difference. It's a difference between where the information starts and where it ends, I guess.
Yeah, but of course, if you're trying to make a comment about like the truth about like what tends to happen, you have to base them in sensory, you know.
So again, what tends to happen is sensory.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not okay. It's not what tends to happen. It's look at everything that does happen and look at the pattern behind it, and that's more the truth that you're extracting from the sensory.
Yeah, I feel like I'm saying the same thing. Maybe not.
Okay, all right.
Because let's say what I'm saying is that, just like many like smaller nuggets, right? I wish I could provide remember a bigger nugget. Like a smaller nugget is that you can't ask people how they are because they're very poor insight into what's going on in their mind, right? So
okay.
that is an observation. That is not going to be always true, but things tend to kind of flow that way, right?
Okay, I see.
And I can talk about why that happens. I can tell you why that happens. Why I think it happens. You know what I mean? My explanation is not going to be it's not going to be for every case, and it might not even be accurate, but it seems to be, it's like the best understanding that I have right now, and it'll get replaced.
So that's like a result, but like there is an underlying truth that there still is a process in everybody of self. Even if they can't see that self, the process is still there, right? And that's more of a first order. That's a more first order truth than what you were saying.
Yes, that is there such a thing as a self? I think that's what does that call it? It's an emergent property of, so like even the self is just an emergent property. I think of smaller SE, of sensory.
Okay. I'm wondering about your play. Do you see that as a last animal? Do you see that as something that you do last? That you have to do all of the rest of the work before you go do it?
No, I don't.
No. Gathering information from the tribe, banging on their heads, polling people.
So yes, so I do. So I do, but not in all aspects, right? So again, it kind of goes back to my like a little bit more, I feel like, asterisk understanding of what a demon function is that I like to do it in the areas I like to do it. But if I just blanket get put into a situation where I have to kind of like,
it's not your go-to.
Let's say it's not my. I will definitely. I'll never get information that way.
Yeah.
I love to get information that way. I enjoy like the play of like let's say you go into like a high stimulus environment of like, you go to a loud venue, or you go to a party where you don't know anybody. I find that exhilarating, right?
Okay.
Um, I don't know if I find it exhilarating because it's like new sensory, um,
That's weird. Yeah.
or what it is. I really love that.
Really? You wouldn't rather
But
just stay home in your little IJ box sort of
no,
thing?
I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't. I would like my peak experiences are like going out and talking to new people, and like, because I feel like that's where that's the whole point of the thinking about like what people are like, is to use it in that context, right? You have to have like love for it. Otherwise, like, what's the point of all the sleep, you know?
That's really weird, man. Because like I would much rather just stay home and not interact with people if I had the choice.
No, I find I'm like the last person to leave parties. Uh, even yeah.
Same, but that's because like a demon FE, like I don't know when it's appropriate to leave.
No, I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it.
Okay, all right.
And
Cool.
to me it's like, to me the more people the better. The more strangers the better. Like, so
Oh.
in that sense. But I wonder, is that play? That's what always threw me off. But what I don't like is someone calling me to let's figure this thing out, right? Like, so I recommended this book to my friend, and then
Right. That's something
then
you do
the
on your
next,
own, figure things out.
yeah. So and he called me and he was like, oh, so like on chapter one, like this thing happened. What was your like what was your understanding of that? And I was like, why is this guy calling me? You know, like,
Hmm.
because and then I realized like, oh, he's just kind of like, I don't know, I don't know what he's doing, but he's just, that's play, right? Like whatever
Right.
this is play. And I would like never in a million years call someone after chapter one to figure out what is going on. You know, I'd be like,
Right. You'd
read the book.
sit and figure it out yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. First of
See,
all, I would
that's
just
the
finish the book.
so Trump is supposed to also be in our quadra, and he says the same thing all the time. Figure it out yourself. These are the
Yeah,
facts.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
figure it out. Like that's sort of what he says all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And that to me, like I do think my biggest issue in life is kind of to TE. Um, literally, probably every week, someone will sit me down and be like, effectively translate it into like, you need to start like TEing a little bit,
Hmm.
um, which is kind of like sharing what you want, and kind of like pushing people, and to kind of like let people kind of figure things out with you, you know. Um,
Because that
so
would make it like your TE is seventh or eighth in the way you're describing it. Are you sure you're not like a
um,
double decider?
I don't know. I'm not fully set on my type because of all
Right.
these things that I'm bringing up. I don't think it's not super obvious that all these issues are, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
are related to my type.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What about double
So
deciding? Like, I just want to touch on that. Are you able to double decide? Do you see yourself doing that?
I think I can double observe and double decide. I think probably everybody, you know what I mean? I don't know if I think that some people, I think the issues that we talk about, like with double deciding or single deciding, I think what's actually going on in my theory is that some single deciders will veer off and really go on to single decider land, right? And then other people, whether it's like other single deciders, maybe because of upbringing or because of their environment, will just kind of like learn to do it. Because I think if you're a double observer, you can kind of know when you're being like an idiot, right? I might still feel it. I might still feel like people are against me, or I might, you know what I mean? But if I'm like objectively looking at the facts, I'm kind of like, okay, I see how other people, especially if you have an understanding of typology, and that other people, like this issue you have with this other person is probably boils down to your different values of communication. You can kind of like, you know, see both sides to it. But I wonder if that's double side deciding, you know?
Yeah. Like, do you do the they suck, I suck, they're good, I'm good sort of thing? Like, you're able to see the perspective of the other and
I can,
just
I can do that, but I think anybody can learn to do that. I actually don't think
uh-huh.
that that's like a great test. In
Well,
like
okay,
in
your thought that anyone can learn to do that, that's like a presumption though. Like, because
it is a presumption.
yeah.
But what's double observing, right? Like double observing is also like, it's like blatantly obvious, right? It's just like, of course, like your NI pattern isn't going to explain the entire world in every single instance, right? That or what you like. Of course, there could be many different things going on. Like, I don't know. To me, that's like a very obvious thing, you know. I think maybe like obviously some people will kind of fall into that, but not all of the single deciders and not all the single observers will have issues, is my opinion.
Uh-huh. So like, where do you see your tidal waves coming from then? It's that TE?
So I see my tidal waves coming from TE for sure. Like not pushing back on the tribe, not wanting to kind of explain and give my reasons for like why I'm doing something. So like so we were talking a little bit before we started, and I talked about like how I quit my job, right? And some of my friends are kind of like, oh, so what are you doing? And how are you going to try to figure out what are you going to do next?
So
I'm
like,
kind of
that's my
like,
problem.
yeah. I don't like, if you're asking out of curiosity, I'll definitely share, but I do not answer to you. I answer to
Yeah.
me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I will voluntarily share that, but I'm not gonna like, you're not my boss. So I
Right.
do feel that, and I definitely probably feel that too much. You know?
So that sounds like you're maybe more freedom over control. Like you want that freedom. You don't want someone to come and try to control you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but 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 like, isn't isn't everybody like freedom in some area? Because, and then again, I also do need to control things, right? I do want things to go in a specific way, and I do see myself
Right.
like being petty in areas, like, just for example, like we went to I shouldn't give this example because the girl I'm with might actually see this. but but uh but like, let's say if I had something in mind, and like, oh, we need to, like, let's say like this burger needs to be, we gotta use this meat, and we gotta use this cheese, and if I don't get that, I do get annoyed, you know.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's a controlling thing, right? Because like I have an NI vision of this thing. It's got to taste like this. It's got to be like this. And then if it doesn't happen, I get really annoyed,
Yeah.
right? So that's controlling.
That sounds even
But
a
then
little more SI even.
it could be the way that I think it's not
Because you're
SI is
organizing
that
the sensory. You want the sensory to be in a specific way.
I want the taste concept of it. I don't need the details to be that way. I just need um, the flavors to come together in a specific way. I don't
Yeah,
really
that's an
care. Like,
organized sensory. You want the sensory to be
and
organized in a specific way.
yeah, I guess that could be true. Yeah,
Because a taste is a sensory, it's a bodily sense. Yeah.
that's true. And to me, it's like, I am very attuned to that. Like, I do think I'm attuned to that kind of sensory.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Maybe it could have like some kind of SI thing. I do notice like um, when I take in sensory information, it's like it is like narrow, one thing at a time.
So like this is like the second time that you've sort of identified that you do sort of use SI. You have some kind of responsibility to SI, which would so like TINI would make your SI polar.
TI and I would make my SI polar. What does that mean?
It would make your SI your seventh function sort of thing.
Yeah, but at
And
the same time, like these are all like just like random examples, right? So, but at the same time,
yeah,
like my room is not clean. I
yeah,
haven't changed my oil for the past year.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like,
yeah, for sure.
and so like there is also
What about your
disrespect for
school bag
sensory.
at school and your desk and your locker and stuff like that? Big mess?
I'm very okay with things being like messy as long as I know
Yeah,
where
I got
they
the same
are
thing.
and
Yeah,
like and how they kind of fit in to my life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I had the messiest
even
desk, the messiest locker, the messiest room, and I didn't even care.
yeah, but I am, then again, I'm like very sensitive about personal space. I don't care how messy my room is. Don't pick up my stuff because it's like it's
Right,
in a place where I remember it's gonna be. You know what I mean? And then it kind of
right.
throws me off if someone comes in. And I just didn't like the idea of I like the idea of having an area of personal domain.
Cool, man. We're running a little over time, but
For sure.
do
Yeah.
you have something that you want to promote or something extra about your type that maybe you want to say?
No, not at all. I think I got it all out there. I didn't have like notes that I wrote. I think I mostly got everything. You
Okay,
know,
cool. You did the preparation. Nice.
I did do the prep
Cool, man. So yeah, really nice to meet you. And we'll talk again sometime.
for sure.
Have a good
Thanks
one.
for having me on.
Yeah.
You too.